All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with Business Today. Now, today we are looking at some of the biggest stories in business over the week. And this is also one of them when you look at the tax reforms. Now, several stakeholders drawn from different sectors are now calling for the review of Kenya's tax policy amid public outcry over the high cost of living. Now, the stakeholders who are meeting in Nairobi at the Africa Economic Research Consortium under the theme of reforming the tax policy and institutional measures for Kenya now recommend that the VAT threshold should be lowered from the current 5 million shillings in order to increase the revenue collected.
We're working on looking at better solutions, a better approach to that. So all in all I'm to say is that as KRA, we are an integral part of this process. We continue to contribute to it. We want to learn from it, and we are very much looking to the final output, the final recommendations that will then help us in guiding our future approach to tax administration.
So we want to make sure that our design is based on balancing out, but more importantly, we also have to recognize, and I've seen the market has come out and told us, what are we fearing? Well, what we see here, what is distorting the picture is because we have market segmentation. And we should make sure that we crush the segmentation, or we are able to navigate the same market segment. So we have two options. How do we navigate across segments, or how do we crush that segmentation? If that segmentation is, especially between formal and informal, we should crush, isn't it? But again, when you tax beer, wine, and spirit, we are creating a segmentation. How do we marry the two? That's what we are trying to do. How do we optimize? And then, of course, there is also another segmentation of inputs and final output, isn't it? It's another form of segmentation. But look at it this way. In most of the cases, we have seen that what we considered inputs is also a final consumption component. So when do you call it an input and when do you call it a final consumption product? So you also have to make sure that somebody made those comments and I was like, look, ethanol is being consumed as directly, isn't it? But it's also an input. How do we make a division? But it's essentially, these are the areas. We wanted to get the reality check. If you don't have the reality check, then we cannot get going.
All right, now, Ken, regarding what is being spoken about, the tax reforms. When you look at reforming the Kenyan tax regime, what exactly needs to happen?
Indeed, Kenya badly needs to change its tax policy. We've never had a tax policy anchored on proper tax principles. Mm-hmm. What Kenya needs is what is called progressive tax policies that move away from consumption taxes, or very light on consumption taxes such as VAT, and reorganizes the country towards production. When I look at that clip, I'm a bit worried because they have gone into the technicalities. They're saying maybe the 5 million shilling threshold is too high, we need to reduce it, get more people to pay VAT. But I don't even think they've had the bigger question on what are the principles of taxation. And one of the key principles of taxation is it must be just, it must be proportionate. Consumption taxes such as VAT tend to hurt the people at the bottom the most. So we need to, as a country, and as a matter of urgency, we need to have a policy, the philosophy that guides. We say the tax principles should be just, should be proportionate, should be convenient, should be easy to pay. Those are the ones that you find in most of the advanced countries. So that discussion for me has to be held by State House. It cannot be held by some research consortium. It needs to be at State House when all the players come together and say, for Kenya, this is how we want to map out taxation in principles. Then now KRA can now look at the administrative. I think they've started with the technicalities without the broad-based view of saying, do we have a just system where those who are supposed to pay are paying their fair share? We've never had that conversation, and for me, it's quite worrying.
Right, and even as you say, the ones who are supposed to pay their share Are they really doing it? I think that is a question that we can throw out there, because the people who are supposed to actually be paying, are they still paying? All right, let's also look at the VAT. The VAT, because many a times when it comes to taxation, the government really focuses on the VAT, because when taxation is being increased, you get the VAT is the one that is being increased. So even as we move forward with the economic state of the country and where we are in terms of growth, changing from the VAT into production, the way you mentioned, how easy is it?
Well, it requires significant steps. VAT came up when Saitoti was the finance minister. So a lot of people believe VAT has been there forever. It hasn't. It's about 25 years old.
Okay.
And even then, it had its challenges. The principal challenge to it is it increases the cost of goods. So it not only fuels inflation, but it makes it more difficult for people to purchase goods, and it makes it more difficult for businesses to sell products. So you slow down the economy in a significant way. So one of the quick wins that needs to happen is first to reduce VAT gradually. So if you're at 16%, go to 14, go to 12, wean the economy off it. Get the country back into production. That has to be the core thing. If you look at the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza administration, they talked about having a progressive tax system. This is still very regressive approach. So I think it goes back again to ask, what are the principles of taxation?
Yeah.
How do we approach this? You know, Yakundi, during the French Revolution, just before the French Revolution occurred, King Louis XVI called a meeting of all the estates because there was a big feeling in France, as we are feeling in Kenya, that the taxation system was not working for the country. And he called what they call the first estate, that's the clergy, the second estate, the nobility, the third estate, which is the middle class or the common person. And there was a meeting, and had that meeting gone well, we would not have had the French Revolution. So it didn't go as well as it should be. So it's something that needs to be taken very seriously. This is something State House has to own. This has to be something, it can't be owned by research consortiums. It's something State House outside. And so this is our key contribution to the economy. If we get a taxation system that works, then we can get this country back into prosperity.
Right. Ken, now let's look at also another story. We want to look at President William Ruto, who now says the